Yo, what's good with you? Back in black with another Enlisted video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and it will improve your skill-based matchmaking. Getting into today's topic, Enlisted not even 24 hours ago released a new update that has improved many significant aspects of the game as far as quality of life is concerned, ranging from things like weapons, animation, vehicles, you can now create a password if you have a private match, so on and so forth. But it is a lot of fluff in there, so I didn't necessarily want to go through the whole article with you guys. If you guys did want to read that yourself, I will link it down in the description. Essentially, what I wanted to do here in this video was go over the most important parts of the update in my personal opinion, and then we will discuss how I think it affects the gameplay. And keep in mind that I am a console player, so if you are coming from the perspective of a PC guy, it may not, necessarily line up with how you view things. But I feel like people who play on Xbox and PlayStation, and even some of you guys who do play on PC, may be able to relate or agree to some of the things that I am saying. So I guess if we're going to start off in order of importance from greatest to least, the first thing that I should talk about is weapon performance, as we have some weapon tuning going on. In all campaigns except for the Battle of Stalingrad, the damage of bolt action rifles has been increased by 50 to 60%, except for the Delio Commando Carbine, which I don't think many people use that anyways, so it's all good. But essentially what this does is that bolt action rifles right now, when you shoot somebody with them, you could kill them outright, but there's also a pretty decent chance that they just go down and have the chance to revive themselves. With this damage increase is basically giving the bolt action rifles, overkill power. So essentially when you shoot somebody with them, they will die outright, and 9 times out of 10 they won't be able to go down and be able to revive themselves. For the simple fact that new players usually only get access to bolt action rifles, I kind of agree with this change because as we know, retention is a big problem in Enlisted, and I feel as though when you're running around with nothing but bolt action rifles and you're getting smacked by machine guns and assault rifles and submachine guns, you tend to get a little discouraged. But on the other hand, if you get a buff to bolt action rifles, which most people are going to have anyways, especially if they're new to the game, that will give them more of a fighting edge on the battlefield. So clap for this change. I agree with it 100%. Another thing that you should be aware of is that they have increased the rate of fire for most semi-automatic rifles from 200 to 300 RPM. I don't necessarily think this change was needed, but I suppose it doesn't really matter if the goal of this is to just differentiate between bolt action rifles and semi-automatic rifles. The main advantage is going to be that you can pull the trigger multiple times and not have to cock it back and forth. So again, if they're just trying to differentiate between that, I don't really mind. But another thing that you guys should know is that the recoil for rifles, submachine guns, and assault rifles has been increased from a range of 15 to 50%, and the recoil impulse has been shifted to the right, so more often than not you're going to be pulling down and to the left. Although I have been seeing reports on Reddit or people complaining that the Soviet submachine guns are basically, way worse than they were before, or more or less unusable, which I think is a stretch of the imagination because again, there's some machine guns with 70 round drum mags. What more do you want? Do you want them to be laser beams too? So I don't necessarily disagree with this change, and I don't really see the reason to be upset, because what they have also done is that they have increased the recoil control of some machine guns and assault rifles by 50%. So even though the recoil has been increased, generally speaking, if you're good at controlling recoil, it shouldn't really make a difference to you at all. And you'll see in the gameplay, most of it's mostly rifles, but the times I am using a submachine gun, I can still nail people from medium range at the very least, or most I should say. And I don't find it hard to control, nor do I think it's been much of a nerf anyway. So I don't know, I haven't been using any submachine guns in the Moscow campaign as of late, so I'll have to report back to you later on that if I do think it has been a little bit overkill. But I agree with this change 100%, as assault rifles, semi-automatic rifles, and submachine guns are pretty strong in the game, and they have to have a little bit of a balancing act between that and your typical bolt action rifle or sniper rifle. The next thing in the article that caught my eye is that they mentioned that they changed the aim angle limits for stationary machine guns. That includes the MG34, the Maxima, and the Browning M1919A4, or basically the 30 cal for lack of better words. These are the machine guns that you have to build, or with an engineer, where you get your hammer out and it takes a long time to make. So My thing with it is that if it takes such a great amount of time to erect one of these things, why does it still seem like the angle at which I can turn it is still so limited? And I'm no mathematician by any means, so when they say negative 30 degrees slash positive 30 degrees, -7, whatever they change it to, I really couldn't tell if it was an increase or a decrease. But so far it seems like if it was an increase, it's basically negligible, or they decreased it or something like that, because very often I'm still running into situations where the enemy is just ever so slightly too far to the left or right, and I can't turn the machine gun to mow them down, and unless they're right in front of me, as you can see in the current gameplay. So if anything, I would like them to take another look at that and maybe increase it a little more. If anything, maybe slightly less than 180 degrees, because on a tripod I don't see any reason you shouldn't be able to turn all the way to the right or left, especially if you take the time out of your day to get out of engineer and actually make these things for a defensive effort, especially putting it in a good spot. That should be rewarded, and you shouldn't be limited in how far you can look to even shoot somebody. But hey, what do I know? Moving on from weapons to vehicles, which I believe is the next most important thing in Enlisted, we now have the ability to free look on anti-aircraft guns and as a tank commander, which I thought was something that was already in the game, but I guess not. It's a good thing that you don't necessarily have to turn your entire turret to look around and know what's going on and have situational awareness. So yeah, good on them for that. Another good thing about being a tanker is you can now use your repair kit to extinguish fire before it spreads to the internals of the vehicle, which is really good. And you can extinguish fire multiple times in a single repair kit use. But once you actually repair your tank, if it has suffered any type of damage, the repair kit will actually go away. So I guess it's kind of a buff to the repair kit, whereas you can put out fire multiple times, but you still only get one actual repair use. Another neat thing they added with the tanks is the ability to change your selected ammo type while you are in the middle of a reload. Previously, whatever shell you loaded in, you had to shoot that shell off before you could load a different type in, which was kind of well, not even kind of, it was a very big inconvenience, especially in the middle of a tank fight. That's usually something that could get you killed, so I'm glad they changed that. The only other thing I would like them to take a look at is tanks that like to sit back in the gray zone. If they could figure out a way to do something about that, that would be kind of great. But everything else about the vehicles, and this is kind of fluff, except for the fact that they finally fixed that bugginess that was kind of happening when you would fly an airplane and it would just bug out for no reason and start twitching or doing something crazy. They finally fixed that. It was pretty prevalent. I didn't say anything about it, but I'm sure I wasn't the only one running into it, so that's good. Next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was the improvements to the AI soldiers that are in the game. And we all know this is highly needed because the AI in this game be doing some crazy ass shit, but neither here nor there. AI soldiers that are actually near a capture point will now try to enter it, which is really good because it was kind of annoying when they would just stand right on the outside, even though you put the command order right in the middle where they should be. And of course, the more soldiers that are on the point, the faster you can catch it. That's really good. Another improvement is that they are less likely to automatically go prone or lie down when getting shot at, or do the thing where they jump up really fast and spin around and do a 360 and shoot you in the head. So less of that has been going on. I can attest to it. I'm very happy about that change. Apparently they are better at tracking enemies. I haven't been playing long enough since the release of this update to confirm that, but I always try to mark where enemies are in general, so not only will my AI shoot at it, but other teammates will shoot at the enemy as well. So mark your targets. For better or for worse, the best thing that can happen is that the AI will actually help you shoot them. Worst case scenario, your team will at least know that they're there, so that's nice as well. When it comes to the destruction game mode, instead of standing around the bomb and getting blown to smithereens, the AI will actually try to move away, so that's really good because that was kind of annoying. And when it comes to the train mission in Berlin, they have better programming as far as engaging enemies around the train and moving on the train as well, because they were acting kind of finicky when they got around the train for whatever reason, just start twitching out or glitching out or whatever. So that's really good as well. Not the most significant amount of AI changes, but a step in the right direction nevertheless. The next thing I wanted to talk about might be a little more impactful on PC than it is on console due to the increased frame rate that they have, but they've improved the fluidity of the animations, generally speaking, in the game. So I guess now whenever you're sprinting and you try to go prone really fast, you'll have to, one, put your gun away so you won't be able to shoot while you're doing it, but you'll actually have to slow down and like put your hand on the ground and lay on it before you can do anything. So I guess that's pretty cool. A little more fluidity, and it kind of slows down the game a little bit so it can be less twitchy, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world, because while it is an arcade shooter, it still has those realistic elements to it. So if they can make the animations look better as far as like standing up and laying down and not just making it super twitchy like how the AI usually are when it comes to how they move around and interact with other enemies, I think that's a step in the right direction. The rest of the animation improvements are pretty minutia, so I won't go too deep into it. Again, you can go into the article and read that if you want, but I do think it's really cool that they changed how you like lay down, stand up, and how you jump. It's a little more weight and like heaviness to your soldier, so that's a good thing. The last thing that I wanted to mention for this little update is that they added a bunch of new missions and locations to the game. But I do want you guys to take heed when they say they added new locations. I don't think they necessarily mean new maps, because usually when they add a new map, they kind of show a picture and make a big deal about it. So essentially what this is that it's the same maps that are already in the game, but we can now play different game modes on them, like confrontation or assault, for lack of better words. And they changed up the battle zones for some of the existing maps as well, which I think is really good. If they're using more areas of the map that have not been utilized previously, or if they're just changing, you know, different areas on the map that we go to that we don't normally go to. That just adds a little bit of variety to the game, and variety is good. Variety is how you keep your game feeling fresh, and it keeps you playing longer, in my personal opinion, which again, it goes back to that retention that I think they're going for. But that's pretty much it for the update. Share your opinions down below. Go read it yourself if you feel inclined. I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. If you liked anything or learned anything, feel free to shoot that like button, aim for that subscribe button as well. And I hope you have a lovely day. Black Guy out.